My name is Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. The first thing I want to do here is give a little shout out here to Mr. MMB333 channel. He's been on YouTube for almost 10 years, since 2008. And, this is just like a sample of some of his videos here. He's got a lot of interesting stuff on his channel. I want to give a little shout out to this guy because guy's got a great voice, by the way. His voice has got a nice, compelling tone to it. I watch his videos quite a bit, and his stuff is interesting. He's plugged into a lot of scientific data, and you can go and look at his channel right here. Link is in the description. You can see that he's basically dedicated to science, Earth changes, planets, solar system, sun, companion, sun, awareness. So, okay. And here's another point I really got to make, the very important point. Just because I subscribe to a channel does not necessarily mean that I agree with everything that they say. There are a lot of channels out there, a lot of people out there that supply a lot of good data, have done their due diligence, and put up some really good material. But I don't agree with everything that they say. Like this guy, I guess, Companion Son, I don't know what that's about. If it's any of that Nibiru stuff, I don't get into any of that kind of stuff. I like to keep it, I like to keep it in the road, but his, he's one of those channels that's, his data, he, comes stepping with some good data on a lot of different fronts. So you should check him out, definitely. I wanted to give him a shout out because that's where I got the story about the flies in Michigan for this video right here. Missing flies, Canary in the coal mine. On that tip, my brother just went to Ocala today for a beer judging class, I guess it was, and there was a horse farm there. And he said there were flies, a lot of flies, at this horse farm, and I guess they have donkeys and stuff like that. So anyway, you can see that around Ocala there's a lot of, you have Silver Springs, you have a lot of lakes and springs and things like that. So the fly thing may be a function of moisture. It might be a function of drought, because we've had a drought, significant drought. Up until today, we got a pretty good little dump of rain today. So we'll see. We'll track the fly situation. Some comments about flies. One from Ohio that said they hadn't seen any flies. And this guy here, George Lindsay, commented, I haven't seen house flies in about over a year, and fewer birds, no bugs on my windshield either, Indiana. So, Horn of Africa has a drought. Mediterranean drought, olive oil price surging, drought forcing alligators onto roadways, U.S. drought at lowest level in nearly 2 decades. This is May 17th. Let's see what's going on here. After years of intense, record-setting drought across the U.S., particularly in the Great Plains and California, the country is now experiencing its lowest level of drought in the 17 years since the U.S. Drought Monitor began its weekly updates. Less than 5% of the U.S. was in some stage of drought as of May 4th. It took me a second to figure out the syntax to use to search for this. If you want to look this up yourself, insect population statistics or insect population decline, trying to look for flies specifically because the word fly has so many different uses, travel, sports, what have you. What you're looking for is insect population numbers, decline, statistics, this kind of thing. I think most of us really realize that when you look this up, insect population decline, for example, there's 2.4 million results. Insect statistics, 10 million results. Intuitively, most of us probably know, according to several articles, the insect population in general is in decline across the board. And the reason for this, what's causing the insect decline, in one word, us, of course, the specific causes are likely very complex, but they are almost certainly connected to human impacts. Neonicotinoids, a class of pesticide, as being a cause, but there are many causes of polluted waterways, volatile organic compounds, and things like that that may be toxic to insects. It's probably a local effect, probably not a broad effect, but overall, insect populations are in decline. Results here pretty much across the board. Growing crisis, insects are disappearing. and fast. This piece in Science is basically about insect censuses, insect studies that were done in Germany and Britain. And he talks about a gut feeling, that there just aren't as many insects as there used to be. And that's, I get that. But what we're talking about is something that's recent. Overuse of nitrogen fertilizer. Didn't see that one coming. I'm not really sure what's up with that. But they lay that as part of the blame. Changes in land use, intensive agricultural practices, pesticide use, alien invasive species, disease and pests, climate change, genetically modified flies. There's a lot of work being done out there with genetic modification, especially from a company called Oxitec, which is primarily concerned with fighting Zika, and they're able to insert a gene into mosquitoes, and in this particular case over here, into flies. This is kind of a new technique where they're able to insert a gene into the fly that causes it to die off, to die out, to become extinct. If you want more information on that, there's a little bit of humor in the start of this video here, Armageddon in a test tube. But basically they talk about genetically modified mosquitoes and using genetic modifications to eradicate pest organisms like mosquitoes and flies and things like that. There's other things called gene drive, which are actually against the law. They're frowned upon heavily by the scientific community. But if experimental flies were to escape, there's a lot involved in that with genetic modifications. But if somehow or another the tools that they use to insert the gene into the organism were to get out, then you could see populations of organisms die out. So apparently this is something they're going to try with a Mediterranean fruit fly, and we already know that they're trying it with Zika, and I believe they've done a test in the Keys, or they want to do a test in the Keys. I believe they might have gotten a FDA approval. They've got some other I's to dot and T's to cross and so forth, but this is something that, with the fly situation, we're talking about a very new phenomenon, something that's new as of this year. So that's that. But flies, flies are kind of sort of associated with people. They're house flies. It's the name housefly. They live in your house. They lay their eggs wherever they can, and it's. In any case, as I said earlier, flies have been sighted earlier today, at a horse farm in Ocala, Florida. And it just rained today. We had a drought. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. If you look to the video that I just posted last night, it's unusual to have a fly bait sitting out like that on my garbage can and not even see one fly for 30 minutes. So the data is here, and it's voluminous. 2.4 million results, 10 million results. These two links will be in the description for Science and Growing Crisis. This is in triple pundit. Kind of keeping an eye on this one. Just to reiterate, a lot of people out there may not really realize that flies are like a canary in the coal mine. House flies in particular. House flies, fruit flies. But house flies in particular are like a canary in the coal mine for different things going on in the environment. When they start disappearing, when birds start disappearing, these are indications that something is awry. So we don't really know what it is. That the disappearing insect populations, that's been ongoing for 30 years, 40 years. So, but this is a steeper decline. So we're monitoring, as if there wasn't enough shit going on out there. You know what I mean? And it's, insects, man, is like, that's another crucial thing. We can't have an extinction of insects. That'd be bad. So anyway, my name is Crosby Lyles, and thanks for watching. See ya.